Olá, amigas e amigos do Clipping. Meu nome é Elisa e eu sou head de conteúdo aqui do Clipping. Eu vim trazer um recado super importante. A lista de espera do curso extensivo para o CACD 2024 está aberta. O curso foi repensado e reestruturado para entregar uma preparação ainda mais completa para você que tem o sonho de ser diplomata. O curso extensivo passa por todos os tópicos do edital, incluindo os idiomas, inglês, francês e espanhol. E o curso extensivo é aliado à plataforma, então você vai ter acesso a muitas ferramentas. Além das aulas, você vai poder ter acesso aos simulados, às questões, a referências bibliográficas e muito mais. São mais de 290 aulas no nosso curso extensivo para te ajudar a se preparar para o CACD 2024. Então não perca tempo, esse é o desconto maior que nós temos. O nosso time está enviando aí o link no chat. Caso você não veja, tem o link na descrição. Inclusive, esse ano, nesse novo ciclo, a gente tem muitas novidades no curso extensivo. Então, se você quiser saber mais, é só se inscrever na lista de espera, que você vai ficar sabendo em primeira mão, tá bom? Então, sem mais delongas, vamos para mais um episódio da Diplomacia 101 aqui do Clipping.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Elisa. Ok. Eu acho que eu vou falar um pouquinho de português e vai misturar com inglês. What do you think? Okay, let's see who is there. Say hello on the chat, and then you can ask me any question that you want. Okay. I hope everyone's okay, and we're ready. Okay, good. Good. So let's get started, shall we? Meu nome, my name is Sean. So Professor Sean. Who's Professor Sean? Well, I am the teacher of the extensive course. Yes, and in the courses I speak English. You need to speak English too if you want to pass the Itamaraty, the CACD, and go to, of course, Rio Branco and become diplomats, of course. But how do you get there? How do you study English? And that's what we're going to do today. Well, I used to be a teacher at Rio Branco, so I know what it's like before, because I prepare lots of people, and after. Okay, what you do when you go to Rio Branco. I taught there for 10 years. Okay, now I teach the government, all over the government. Okay, at the moment, let's see where I am. Just finished a course with the TCU. I've done courses with Ministério Público. I do courses with states, procuradores in states, auditors in the states like Rio Grande do Sul, for example. And also, what more? Even at the STF. Hi, Jess. Hi. Oh, Priscilla. Okay, good. So let's get started, shall we? Everyone's very quiet at the moment online. You can say hello. It's all right. I won't bite. Eu não vou morder. Okay? Let's get started, shall we? And then we can talk as we go. Good. Well, I need to share my slides. Good. There we are. Well, yeah, this is me. You can find me, of course, on Instagram. This is where I receive lots of questions about the courses here at Clipping. Okay. So any old question when you think later, you can ask me there as well. Okay. We're going to talk about como estudar língua inglesa. Well, we're going to talk about how to study, not just legal English, but for this exam as well. Okay, because there are many, many ways of studying English. It's a process. Everyone develops differently. So it's not that nobody has problems with English. It's that they learn differently. Okay, they achieve different levels at different times, and that process, okay, is very important because you have difficulties during the time, and then it'll be easy. So it's dealing with those ups and downs. It's very important when you're studying, say, by yourself at home, and you don't have even an English teacher like me to be able to talk to. Okay, so fine. Let's check. I've got everybody here. Good. So here I am. Okay, this is, I think, one of the last years, one of the last group I had. This is where we focused. How do we speak English? All of these people who passed, this is, here we see me here. This is a simulado. This is a negotiation that you do in English when you get to Rio Branco. When you get to Rio Branco, you need to speak English. To pass the CACD, you don't really need to speak English. You need to write English. Okay, so we're going to be doing lots and lots of writing on my course. Other courses don't, but in my courses, we'll be writing. Will you make lots of mistakes? Will you have problems? Yes, you will. And that is the process that we're doing to get you to a higher level of English. And that's why you need an expert teacher like me. I've got to look up here is my master's. I taught in London. I'm a mentor. I'm a teacher trainer. I was president of teachers here in Brasilia. And I'm very, very experienced. So I've prepared thousands and thousands of people. Okay. And it's easy when you know what you're doing. Okay. So we need to, of course, no one's perfect straight away. So we have to make those mistakes and learn from them, write them down and study a bit harder. And then eventually with practice, I was talking about this just yesterday with the students who are preparing for the second phase. We're in the middle at the moment of the second phase of the concurso. I'm going crazy at the moment. But I was telling you, we need lots of practice. And that's what we're going to do on the course. Practice a lot, because I have to know your mistakes, and so do you. So it needs to be obvious that we need to look at those mistakes. Okay. So what's your situation? How do you study English for the CACD? Well, maybe many of you are at home watching me now, like here, and studying. And of course, you need your pen or pencil and piece of paper. Main things you've got to use. Now, it sounds so simple, but that's the way, because all of the information you're going to get and how to study, we're going to do an example today. All right. Lots of vocabulary today in this class, okay, to help you. So then you understand the process we need to prepare. And during the course, I'll be doing this again and again and again. So maybe you're with a group now. A long time ago, people used to come to Brasilia, used to go to Rio or São Paulo, and they used to meet in a group and they used to talk. That's quite difficult at the moment if you're studying at home. But how do you study is by studying both ways. Both ways are very, very important. Why? Well, if we look at this group here, you probably don't have people near you, but to learn English and to study for the CACD, we cannot work in isolation. First, because English, of course, is important. But in order to pass, we need to know a little bit about history and Portuguese and politics. So those are the things that people have been talking about, okay, here at Clipping on these lives. They're very important. João Daniel, for example, or Tongai. Those people are going to give you that content. And I'm going to take all of that and make sure you write perfectly. All right, and that's it. People have problems with the composition, for example, writing composition, because we need content. We need good content, all right? And of course, we have teachers here to give you the good content. That makes it easier for me because I can just focus on your English, all right, and get you there. We have summaries to do, we have compositions to do, and translations, okay? So we need to understand the subjects as well in order to answer the questions. So we cannot work in isolation. We can't work in isolation too. If we look at how to study, there are many ways of study, but one of the best ways is talking, of course, talking in English, okay? Using a dialogical approach is one of the best ways. So one of my tips is that you go online and you find people are studying. So at the start of my course, I'll be telling you to get into groups and talk weekly about, you can talk in Portuguese if you want, but talk in English, okay, about those subjects. Talk about what you've just learned in international law. Talk about what you've learned in history. Discuss those questions that are very important. And then you all help each other and rise together. Your English gets better, your knowledge gets better, and that's why we cannot work in isolation, okay? Good, fine. Let me just check. Everyone's on the chat, okay? Okay, good. So, dialogical approach, what does that mean? Well, if we look at one of the most famous people, because I'm a teacher, not just thinking about teaching, we're not teaching grammar, or vocabulary. We're not going to learn that in my class. We're going to learn how to pass this test. To do that, I've got to push your level up to the highest level possible, okay? So there's those challenges that I'm going to give you, and you're going to give me. I'm going to help you get there. I'm a very experienced teacher. I don't have these qualifications for nothing, okay? Because one of the first things I learned on my master's is how to teach, not just to teach English, but how to teach. So one of the great things is that getting people into groups and discussing is very important. Of course, if we look at a bit of theory, just to make sure that you know that I do know what I'm talking about, to great educators of our time, okay, our Lewandowski, who talked about the zone of proximal development, how the teacher and the student, well, it was a mother and a child when he studied, how one has got the knowledge and the other hasn't. So talking together or learning together, one pushes the other up to a high level. And when you get into a group, everyone has different knowledge. And by working together, you each help each other get to higher levels. With these questions, these deep and profound questions that you have to talk about, of course. Paulo Freire, of course, talks about the approach giving critical thinking, and you do that by talking to others. So when you're by yourself, isolated, somewhere in Brazil, okay, or in the world you could be, all right, finding a group of like-minded people studying from the test is the best way. And you can always invite me to come, and I'll come and happily talk to you, okay, which happens many times to give you that motivation to study and adjust how you're studying too. So it's important, this approach, to talk to people, not just in English, but about those subjects. Of course, when it comes to English, all right, of course, my autonomous has been changed. Autonomous study. You're studying by yourself. Okay, so you're at home. How do we look at this? So I'm going to teach you a way to do this. Now, on the extensive course, I'll be giving you articles for you to do, very similar exercises, okay? But we're going to learn this now, because maybe you want to start studying tomorrow. And I'm here, of course, to give you these techniques. I'll show you how people around the world are doing. I used to get a lot of people from China writing to me about what I'm going to show you today, because they're improving their English there as well. Okay, so what we need is force, okay, for this exam. When the language and the exam, those two focus, but with this effort is necessary. It might seem obvious, but managing, administrating in a way, if you want to say in a Portuguese way, this effort is what also we're here to do. What I will do with you, make things difficult and make things easy. Demand that you write more and demand you write less. That's important, because that's how get you up to that higher level of English. Okay, So what about my English? Well, what do? Well, maybe you're all at different levels, but remember, writing is the exam, so that's good. All right, we don't have to be a fluent speaker. And of course, I've taught 10 years at Rio Branco. And has everybody been a great speaker of English? No, they haven't. Some have really struggled, but they passed the exam. Probably they were better at French or better at Portuguese, and they got a high score, and they weren't so good in English, but they got enough, because we know how to get good writing scores when we practice, how to avoid mistakes and write with good content. Now, so what about my English? Everyone's at a different level. Of course, they're at different levels. So what do you need? An intermediate level helps. Basic, it's going to be difficult, all right? But we'll talk about how we can do that. So how do I improve my English? Because that's all you've got to do, improve your English. Now, of course, these slides would usually work if they were on normal PowerPoint, but as we're in StreamYard, it shows all the information. Well, what happens? What is a common thing that we know with the behavior, especially of Brazilians? They get to the intermediate level and they hit a wall. Intermediate plateau studies tell us. So we've got to get you up past that plateau, especially in writing. How do we do that? Well, as a beginner, people study, the books like this. Okay, you can see I put a list on my Instagram of what to study and what not to study, because this is the most popular and the easiest book to get in Brazil. Okay, no, I don't get any money for telling you this. Okay, you can find this online. And I don't think it's very expensive, but it's the most popular book in the world for grammar. So it must be good. Okay. English Grammar in Use by Murphy. There are other ones that are similar. Okay. But this one by my friends at Cambridge, all right, is one that's easy to get hold of. Is it the best? I don't know. They're all very good. But this is the one that we can find here in Brazil. That's why it's more important. And for example, on my Instagram, I say what to study and what not to study, because you don't have to study everything for this exam. You don't have to know everything. Of course not. You have to know what grammar to study and what grammar not to study as well, because we need to be efficient in the way we're studying. So we're studying words and we're studying grammar. Okay, so there'll be lots of new words. But when we get to the intermediate level, we have to change. We have to change the way we study. And this is what we do when we come to the extensive course, of course, and study English, to get people to go to the high level, to push up through that barrier, to push up through that plateau, to get to the high level, to get your brain working differently. It's not necessarily new information. It's the information you know and how you put it together. Right? How do we join this information so we express ourselves well? And that's what we how diplomats express themselves. Well, they know which words to choose. Are they great new Shakespearean words or great technical things? No, they're just elegant words that they know how to put together. So we need to be able to know what are those words and use it again and again and again. Okay, so we're going to be doing exercises where we look at collocation, which are the words like verbs and nouns that combine. All right, we have to build up. Let me see if I've got, as we saw the girl in let me get one here. We need a notebook always. It's very simple to learn English. You don't have to be complicated. Now you think, but there's so many things online. Yeah, they're there to help you. The tools are there to help you. And we look at them. But really, cognitively, we just saw Lewandowski. Let's have a look at some. I've got, Lewandowski here. It's a book here by Lewandowski. Language and thought, how you speak. Okay, for example, George Orwell talked about how poor the language was. He said, not because the people using the language speak poorly, it's because they have poor ideas. Okay, if you've got good ideas, that means learning history, learning politics, learning those things, then you get those great ideas, and that automatically helps produce great language. Okay, so it's all together. Can't say it's just English. So my other colleagues talking about other things, no, for this exam, we've got to go together and work together with all that information. Okay, and then what happens? It all combines, and with English, it pushes you up to a higher level. So looking at collocations, which we'll do in a moment. Okay, well, actually now in clipping, we look at this is called a curadoria de textos. Okay, so this is how we do it. So within the platform, okay, I demanded that they put text in English. We do this with the offshore, but also going to be we do that in the extensive. The texts are there, and I'll be giving you text, but learning to be a curador, okay, your curator, your collector of language is also. So you need time each week to do this. Become regular, becomes a habit, and then suddenly you've got all this great information. You know how to choose to express yourself to a high level. So you can study grammar. All right, grammar is simple in this exam. It's not very difficult. Present simple, simple past. It's not very difficult. Okay, the text, the factual text. So we know what grammar to teach. We don't have to know everything. This strange grammar that you learned is not necessary, but vocabulary is. Okay, that's why getting a notebook and noting down how words to go together is the secret. So do I know what I'm talking about? Yes, I know a little bit what I'm talking about. We can use text like The Economist. The Economist, yes, we have to pay for it, but you can see some text from 3 texts, I think, every month or whatever. So searching for those texts that we can help you to use, okay, is important. But The Economist was on the exam. They had 2 articles from The Economist in the last exam. And nearly every year, there's one article in the TPS, which is the first section, the first phase of the exam from The Economist. So if we look at The Economist, it's possible we get the right article, okay, that they've chosen, but we understand the way it's organized and the language they use. And of course, there's so much about Brazil, as well for us to learn. And it's an important magazine that's used in the exam, okay? There are other magazines you can use, of course, that you're not paid. Foreign Affairs and Project Syndicate, they deal with very similar subjects, okay? So they are ones that you can watch, you can read, and we're going to do an exercise now to show you how to read these texts, okay? Because what do, we read for information, for meaning. We don't read to study English. There's that cognitive difference, okay? So we're going to learn how to stick that information in your brain, because if you're just reading, okay, it's going to go in your short-term memory, disappear. But put it in your brain, and that comes with training. So in the extensive course, we'll be training, especially in the first module. We'll be training you to think, brainwashing you in a way, to think about how to look at language and collocations. It's extremely important. If I want you to get to the high level and achieve language, we have to see language like this, okay? And that's what no other course does, okay? Go to the schools, the English schools, they don't look at language. They look at lots of grammar, okay? And grammar, as I said, is simple. You need to look at vocabulary, okay? But not just new words. The words maybe you know and how they go together to express yourself to a high level. So let's continue. Hope everyone's still awake. So good language learner, we know, I think there's a book here on good language learners. I put all my book here about good language learner. Okay, but good language learner depends on two things. Good teaching, 50%, and language learning strategies. Okay, so how the strategy, how you study. All right, so of course you need good teaching. Hopefully people think I'm a good teacher. I've been doing it a long time. I get invited to teach some of the top people here in Brazil. Okay, in Brasilia, have breakfast with a president of the legislative, or coffee with a minister of SDF. Sometimes it's quite nice. Okay, doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes you're invited. But teaching people at a high level of government is what I do. Okay, so I do know what I'm doing and have to give courses to the government as well. But these learning strategies are very important for you, and what I'm focusing on at the moment to help you, all right, to get an idea. So when you come with me and you start, then you're ready to go quick. Fine. So let's have a look at Brazilian foreign policy. Okay, this is what we're learning the CACD, and my picture didn't come here. That I had. So what is Brazilian foreign policy? Is generally based on the principle of multilateralism, peaceful dispute settlements, and non-intervention in the affairs of other countries. And sometimes people forget that. All right. Having been 10 years at Rio Branco, it's been very clear that they are the main principles of Brazil. Okay. Of course, Brazil's expanding its policy, and that's why, thank goodness, there are more people needed at the Itamaraty. Let's go. So let's see, hopefully my other pictures will work. So here was a composition, because everyone thinks compositions are the most difficult thing to write. Well, you know why they're difficult to write? Because we don't write with a pen anymore. We don't write. Or we type it all, or just copy and paste, or even people get GPT to write for them, because in the exam we need a pen and a piece of paper, and we need to write. So I have to be used to that. Okay, so that's very important. So if we were to write on soft power and the influence Brazil has in the world, what things would we look at? Let's have a look. Let's look at a text. Here we go. Well, Brazil, soft power is its cultural diversity, okay? It's gained global recognition and appeal for its diversity, okay? And it generates, of course, admiration of the world. So here's a text. What have I done with this text? I looked at the main type of word. Is this, do you think? Is it a noun, an adjective, or a verb? What do you think it is? Oh, I can't see anybody online here, so I don't know if anyone's asking me questions. I apologize for that. Maybe because you're learning. But what I've got here is a verb, of course. And here, what about generates? A verb, adjective, or noun? Yes. It's a verb, of course. Verbs are central to expressing ourselves extremely well. Okay, look at this. Now, this text is in what tense? Is it in the past? No. We've got the present and the present perfect here. Tenses that we're going to dominate in order to pass, okay? And then we look at these expressions, how good they are. Gained recognition, generates admiration. Wow, what great expressions they are. Wow, if you use these, you sound so cheeky. Okay, so good. Let's have a look more about Brazil. Of course, sport is very important, of course. All right, so my favorite woman in the world, except for my wife, don't tell her, of course, Marta. All right, love her so much. She's a fantastic person. Okay, so let's have a look at this language about sport. Now, we've got a text here, and we analyze this text about being globally renowned. for its success and passion of football. Soccer, okay, I'll give you soccer, but I'm English. Hate soccer, no. All right then, so they produce players, okay? The admired worldwide. Oh, similar words. We have worldwide, admire, and the last one, oh look, admiration worldwide. Well, these words are similar. So now we're seeing that words are repeated. So that makes us our learning easy, because when we're learning, say, diplomacy, there is a certain amount of language that we use. We don't use everything, okay? And that makes it easier for us to study because there are limits, all right? So when we're looking at collocation, we're looking at these texts on international relations, on Brazil or whatever, then these words come again and again and again. And that gets in here. And that's where we push ourselves up to a higher level. Now, it's that process, I keep saying it's a process that we need to do. And that's how we get to a high level. Okay, you don't get these in the schools. You don't get this there. But we are doing a different type of course. We're getting you to get to the highest level. Now, many teachers around the world will understand what I'm saying when they see this, but they probably don't do it in their school because they don't allow it. I am fortunate that I can do it because I've got freedom to get you there to the high level, okay, and show you examples like this. So again, let's look. Engage. What a word, engage. What's that? We could translate it, couldn't we? But engage with an international audience and foster connections. Wow, foster. Instead of make connections, foster connections. Instead of develop connections, foster connections. Wow, that sounds great. So this is that elegant level of language that the diplomat writes and uses as well. Okay, so when we look at these texts, we're looking at these verbs and these nouns. Let's have a look at another one. Of course, environmental stewardship. One of the main questions at the moment that the international community is placing at the feet of Brazil is how it's going to deal with the Amazon, of course. And of course, Brazil plays a crucial role, as the Amazon plays a crucial role. Brazil needs to emphasize its commitment. Commitment, there we are. It's another word a lot used in diplomacy. And then it will wield soft power. What's that? Wield. We wield a sword, we wave a sword, but wield influence, wield soft power. This is the elegant language we use. Now, the text is not really very difficult, but when we start looking at this language, we start looking at good text, we start studying it, that's when we improve, and that's what we're doing. Okay, I keep saying it. Okay. Now, well, look, we've got engage again. Do we have engage in the last one? Engage with. And now we've got engage in. The only two prepositions engage goes with. And then we now got new verb engage, and we know how it combines with prepositions. Now, prepositions, everyone says that prepositions are difficult. Well, when we move up to a high level, prepositions have very, very little meaning. Did you know that? Very little. Okay, it's not the book is on the table anymore, right? It's the book is in the box. That has clear meaning. But engage in doesn't have a lot of meaning, but it combines with engage. It's always together. It's like in love with engage. And that love, that relationship, that combination is what we're looking at. Collocations, how they combine together. It's very important. That's what we do again and again and again. Fine. Okay. So look, diplomacy and peacekeeping, something that's happened since in the Lula government, okay, with the military going to help Haiti, okay, being having peacekeeping missions. So we have this long-standing tradition. There we are. That's a nice. What type of word is long-standing? Is it a verb? Is that a verb? It's an adjective, okay? And has contributed troops to. To. What type of word we have here? Our preposition. Our preposition combined together with contribute. And commit. Again, commitment. How this is repeating. And our preposition to. Did that happen before? Do we have commitment? Where was commitment? Commitment to. Again, wow, it's repeating. You see how language now is being limited. There's a limited area of vocabulary that we need, but it's how we put them together. It's how we express ourselves to a higher level. And these texts are good, very well, high-level texts. I've not made them easier, all right? But we see them again and again. For example, enhance. Oh, one of my students in the government can't say enhance. Okay, he represents Brazil in trade, and he has that problem saying it. He understands it. So I say to use improve for him. All right, improve its international reputation. It's just the same. All right, but enhance sounds a bit more elegant. So again, we're looking at these combinations. So we've got enhance, the reputation, a verb, and reputation. What type of word? Is that an adjective? No, it's a noun. Do you call that substantivo in Portuguese? Not going to give you my Portuguese, terrible Portuguese, okay? So there we have it. Then we've got, let's talk about, of course, Brazil's economic potential. Well, Haddad said we're going up to 3% this year. Great. Fantastic. We need to get out of the doldrums, as we say, and get out of that quagmire that was Brazil was once named as its economic problems in The Economist many years ago, that many of my students started to use quagmire. No one uses that. Of course, in Family Man, you see there's a quagmire in Family Man as well. But let's not go there. So let's have a look. As one of the world's largest economies, Brazil, possessive economic influence. We have the BRICS. We have, of course, BNDES spreading its wings to help Argentina at the moment. That was one of the first policies of this current government. And shape international dynamics. Shape? Modular? Is that modular? Mudar? Promote trade. Exert soft power. It's like wield, we've just seen. And strengthen, to strengthen its ties with other countries. Okay, so this, of course, everyone's got a problem with spelling strengthen. No one can say it easy, even, but it's not really a problem when we practice. Let's have a look at the last one. Is it the last one? Okay, it's soft power. Brazil's, okay, pursuit of soft power. Again, let's have a look at these phrases. Brazil actively pursued soft power initiatives. For example, promote, again, teaching of Portuguese. When I was at Itamaraty, I would teach all of the people that came from different parts of the world, okay, who didn't have great English. I would teach them. They would come from Angola, Mozambique, Santo Tomé e Príncipe. I must go there. Okay, to teach the community of Portuguese speakers. They would be invited to the Rio Branco to learn with the diplomats. It's a great cultural exchange, and I would teach them because they would have a basic level as well, some of them. So they haven't had the exposure of diplomats, but they would still compete in the debates, okay? So promoting Portuguese, bringing those diplomats who's from Portuguese-speaking countries was something that you might find if you pass the exam and go to Rio Branco. Again, we've got other words. second language, which helps establish connections, ties, connections, wow, the similar words, ties and connections, fosters again cultural exchange, facilitates, that's easy in Portuguese, academic cooperation, and promotes Brazil's intellectual contributions globally. It's academic and social understanding and social programs can be exchanged, especially in Africa, where the focus is at the moment, of course, making these connections again with Africa that were lost in the last government, okay? So we know what the policies are, we know what the focus of this government, and we know these themes. Let's go. Is there one more? I think there's one. Oh, so we've just seen, let me go back. Just seen all of these verbs and nouns, these connections, these ties, these combinations, these verbs, and that they're even repeated. All right, so maybe you don't see foster once, but you see it many, many times. Maybe it's a new word for you now. Okay. So then what do? Get all of this information. So I've made a nice list for you here. Okay. Look, we've got engage here, engage in, engage with. And what you're going to do, as the girl did in the picture, you're going to start writing down. Now, you could put it on your computer, of course, but writing down helps cognitively, making lists, not of single words, but words that combine together, because you will repeat them and see them again in different combinations. And that's how you express themselves, okay? To gain appeal, to foster a good image, to generate more knowledge, okay? And engage with other people. Wow, I'm using these verbs and I sound really elegant, okay? And that's what we need as a diplomat, because the focus on a diplomat is representing Brazil well. So if you improve your English by pushing up past that intermediate plateau, by taking in collocation, start studying that, remember the grammar is simple. It's not necessary to know everything about grammar. Okay, as I said, with this book, I do a list on Instagram of what not to study. It's not necessary everything here. Okay, so if you want to go away and study, feel free. All right, but so what, of course, here at Clipping, we're making sure we're focusing on getting you up to that level in English and for you to be able to answer those questions. And at the end of my course, you'll be doing full exams as well. Okay, there's no bigger challenge than doing a full exam. And the third module we'll be doing one thing, but my English is not good enough. It might not be good enough now, but it will be at the end of the third module, okay? I have to get you there. I have no other option, all right? Because if you're not, then you don't have a chance. I'm just talking this morning, had a meeting with one of my students online. He came, he did the whole of clipping, and now he's in the second phase and adjusting his head to be able to pass, okay? So he did all of the course, focused on that, and now he's in the second phase, of course. So he did English with me and these other subjects, and he's there now. So it's possible, all right? It's very much achievable. So let's go. So I wrote about this, how to study, it was called lexical notebooks many years ago. Actually, I wrote this for teachers, okay, not for students. All right, and many years ago when I used to teach at Língua Inglesa, I would teach my teachers how to do this, okay? And many of them improved their English, passed proficiency with me, and of course are now very well known in English. So I'm very happy that they learned this strategy too. All right. So the strategy is there for you, what we've just done. You want to read more? I wrote for the BBC, for the British Council many years ago when I was at Cultura Inglesa. Oh, I think it was about 15 years ago. I forgot now. And you can also access that too. Okay, it's called lexical notebooks. How just to note down information. All right, but that's but anyway, let me I think I've come to the end of this, the last one. So in a way, I've given a class for you today. Okay, and now I can see the chat. Oh, I can see all these questions. Okay, so let's have a go. So I can see these questions. Oh, lots of questions. Let's go back. Good afternoon, Livia, Bruno, or Ariska. Wow, it's a good name for me to learn. Bruno, and of course, Jessica, Jerome. Okay, I'm doing fine. Let's go. So those magazines, there are loads of magazines that you can use, okay? But those three I've given you, Economist is important, okay? But the Project Syndicate and the Foreign Affairs, I believe they're free. They were free. So look at them, all right? If you, I want you to study with me, and I'll be looking at information from them, but again, doing this process with you, showing you this great vocabulary. Okay, Jamie, no problem. Let's have a look at some questions. Okay, Bruna, of course, you're understanding 87.47% que eu estou falando. Okay. And that training, I speak clearly. I speak like I do when I was at Rio Branco, but we need to have a good quality English, okay? Anula, eu posso falar claro em português, mas, claro, você tem que tentar esforçar um pouquinho, ok? Mas, claro, eu posso falar português, não tem problema nenhum, ok? Pode perguntar em português, ok? Minha esposa pergunta 7 vezes onde eu estou indo todos os dias. Então, eu não tenho problema de responder as perguntas, ok? What else do we have? Even Nature, even New Scientists are a good one. New York Times is a good one, but the magazine, why? Because more of the, as I use in the course, they've got literary texts, okay? So they're very good. Okay, so there are, you've got to start reading, but not reading just to understand. Reading to, can I remove this slide here? Yeah, there we are. Reading to learn, to learn your vocabulary especially, okay? It's fundamental in improving. What I've given you are these things that we're going to be doing a lot. I'll be giving lots of texts for you to work on, all right? And on the site, there are lots of texts too. So will you improve your English? Of course you will. So even if you've got some difficulty with me, after a while, your ears get used to it. It's like when you go to Portugal and you go to Lisbon. Você vai para Lisboa, você tem dificuldade para entender os portugueses, ok? Mas depois, meia hora, você começa a entender. And that's the same with English, okay? Well, certainly with my classes, then you get used to it. It's a very simple thing. Why? Because with listening, your brain is not accustomed to listening in English. And there's different rhythm, a different way of putting information together than Portuguese, which is quite a staccato, syllable-based language, okay? So it's important, this exposure, listening a lot is very important. Okay, so you will improve, of course, because you're going to be having me every week speaking English, all right? It is difficult. So So, Graciela, it's difficult to understand Portuguese, it just needs that adjustment. And the Portuguese have got a rhythm and a stress like in English. Okay, we've got very similar ways of speaking, believe it or not, between the Portuguese from Portugal and of course English from England. Very lots of similarities there with our intonation, with our stress. Different than in Portuguese, where we have syllable time language. So that change you make, of course, it's easier from Portuguese to Portuguese, from Brazil to Portuguese to Portugal, but it takes longer, a little bit longer in English, but it works. Okay. So, no, well, and they asks about American or British sort of English in the exam. Well, I've never ever seen the examiner penalize you, but most people follow more British style. Why? Because diplomatic language is a bit more elegant. Don't tell anyone I told you that. All right. And of course, they use the tense like present perfect, similar to in England. The vocabulary, we've got diplomatic vocabulary. Okay. The spelling might change a little bit, but the examiner has never really penalized you for spelling problems. Okay. So it's not really an issue, because we always worry about what's British and what's American, if one is better than the other. Of course, I think British is better, but I'm biased, of course. Right? So let me just drink. It's dry in Brasilia. Okay, so yeah, so really what I've given you today is a technique you can start now. I'm a teacher. I teach. I want you to do well. But of course, when you come on with clipping, you're going to be pushed a little bit harder that you won't get in any other type of school. This is not un cursinho de escolinha. Okay? You won't find this in Wizard or Wisdom or Cultura Inglesa. No. This is one where you've got a teacher who's got, where is it there? Oh, there. A master's in English who studies every year how to pass this concurso and how to get people from the low level to the top level. I love it. Okay, it's what I love doing, seeing how you can grow, improve your English, and then fly in a way. It's a great thing. And to speak. So I do this a lot. Okay, so no need to worry. I'm very experienced. I've been, of course, I was a teacher at Rio Branco. I teach a lot of different things. I have my own company as well, doing only specialist types of courses for the government. I don't do little courses, okay? Because I specialize in improving people's English. Now, that's a big thing to say, all right? But within limits, as I said, with vocabulary, when we know what the diplomatic level is, and they have to speak very elegantly, there's ways for us to do it, as I've just given you. A lot of teachers will probably in the future watch this and learn a lot too. Okay, but it can be very simple when you know what you're doing. Okay, good, fine. I don't think there's anything else. Any other question? It's a process. It takes a little bit of time, some adjustment. Maybe you haven't been studying English for a while. It's just getting back on the horse, as they say. Okay, back on the horse to learn it again, get used to it. You know, I'm very nice at the start. At the end, I'm a terrible teacher. I really give you a difficult time. No. Of course, I'm pushing you. I need you to improve. I want you to improve. And you have to improve. All right? Because the competition for places is large or high with level, okay? So, the extension course, well, there's a waiting list at the moment. It starts, I think, in November, all right? So there's a waiting list at the moment. We're getting everything together. Okay, I think the edital, my ementa, that's it, ementa is already there. All right, okay, look, Clipping just said there's 30% off. Now, they're giving too much, you have to complain. Too much money of percentage off. But joking aside, as we say, joking aside, because as English people, we're always joking. We're always British humor, okay? So you'll get used to that when you're my student as well. Okay, so I think that's it. So is there a book, Flavia said, about diplomacy you could refer us to master our diplomatic English vocabulary? If there was, I wouldn't be here, Flavia, okay? It's a process, it's a time. There are many books, but the magazines at the moment are the good ones to look at. Maybe I'll produce one, all right? But the text that you're going to get with me will be your book, all right? Will be, Flavia, sorry, not Flavia, will be a book that you can, make and do it. So there's not just one book you can get. If it was, it would be too easy. Now, I've got books on my shelves about como passar concurso de Rio Branco. It's got loads and loads and loads of vocabulary in. Sorry, not vocabulary, loads of grammar in. Grammar is not what we're focusing on. If you've got an intermediate level, if you've got enough grammar you need, we adjust with the more difficult grammar, the small bits of grammar, but improve for the vocabulary and the way you express. It's that expression, okay? Representing the country, you have to express yourself well. And that's what's fundamental. Now, we saw the vocabulary, it's repeated, we saw elegant vocabulary, we saw how they combine together, and that's how we're going to study on the extensive course, which starts, I believe, in November. Okay, with me and everybody else, and you've got high-level language of high level of teacher, and we've done it before. We've been there before. And that's it. Okay, so it's nice to have you here. I hope you enjoyed listening to me, at least understood what I was saying. And what's the best way for you to learn and improve your English? Watch this again. Go through those texts again. Note that information. Study a little bit more, because I've given a class. I haven't just talked. I gave an English class. All right, so probably one of the best English classes that you probably get. All right, nice to have everybody in the chat. Wish you all the best. Hopefully, I'll see you in my class in the Extensivo in November. And that's it. The waiting list is there. Put your name down there. And there's so much. We've got so much information for you. It's going to blow your mind, but it's great. Okay, you're going to learn to the highest level possible with probably the best teachers in Brazil as well. Okay, that's what the cursinho, these cursinhos, these bring excellent teachers as well. Okay, beijo do gringo, now de gordo. Beijo do gringo. I do know a little bit about Brazilian culture. All right then, and all the best. I could keep talking for years, but we have to stop. Okay. Right then. Economy with Daniel. Global Daniel is coming, so see him at 7. Ciao, ciao, cada um. Bye-bye.